As the episode begins, we find Rarity visiting Canterlot, and thanks to her connection to Twilight, Princess Celestia is letting her stay at the palace. As it turns out, Twilight's birthday is coming up, so Rarity plans to use her vacation time to make a new dress for Twilight as a way of saying thank you. While stopping at a cafe, Rarity begins to acquaint herself with Equestria's upper class, but she's soon interrupted by a stallion from Ponyville named Hayseed Turnip Truck. He's very friendly and good-natured, but as his name implies, he's something of a stereotypical hillbilly, and he obviously clashes with the surroundings in Canterlot. All throughout the series, we've been fed the idea that Ponyville is the standard, and in some cases the ideal, by which all other cities in Equestria are compared against. But here, in Twilight's original home of Canterlot, we learn that Ponyville is seen as just a dinky little town that's completely undesirable, and everyone turns their noses up at it. Keeping in mind that this is the culture that Rarity identifies with, this also adds a bit of perspective to the opening of Sisterhood Social, as we now have a better understanding of why Rarity seems so different from the rest of her family. To Rarity's credit, though, she is polite and kind in spite of feeling embarrassed. She tries to overcome the incident by focusing on her work and ends up bumping into a stallion named Fancy Pants. Apparently, Fancy Pants is very important and well respected even among the upper class. Upon hearing that Rarity is staying at the palace, he invites her to the Wonderbolts Derby with a bunch of his other rich friends. Of course, Rarity jumps at the opportunity, and she soon finds herself gaining a reputation among the Canterlot elite. There are a few things to note here. First, at the Wonderbolts Derby, she tries to impress Fancy Pants by lying. She shares a bit of trivia that she got from Rainbow Dash and then says that Rainbow is the Wonderbolt's trainer. This is the first of many little white lies that will pile up to an unacceptable degree by the end of the episode. Next, we get the second new song of the season, Becoming Popular. And I have to admit, despite the turn that Rarity is about to take, this song is catchy as hell. And while it isn't quite as insightful as Art of the Dress, it does show another side of Rarity as she pursues one of her goals. And what's really refreshing is that this isn't just a Disney princess perspective of a naive little girl hoping for some vague notion of something more. Rarity has studied upper class culture. She knows it, she's comfortable with it, and she knows exactly what kind of lady she wants to be. And what we see here is that once she's set loose in that environment on her own, she thrives. Generosity be damned, this is her element. And we also see her making sacrifices to get there. Unfortunately, while she's out building her new reputation, she only has time to throw together a few scraps of fabric for the base of Twilight's birthday dress, and she later tells another lie to get out of Twilight's birthday altogether. Now, on one hand, becoming part of the upper class might be a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity, but remember, she wouldn't be here in the first place if it weren't for Twilight, staying at the palace, getting Fancy Pants' attention, and by extension, getting the chance to fulfill a lifelong dream. It's all because of Twilight. Backing out of her friend's birthday is one of the biggest dick moves that she can make, and she knows it, and she's going to try to get away with it anyway. Ultimately, she doesn't get the chance, though. Twilight convinces everyone to move her birthday celebration to Canterlot so they can all be with Rarity. And as it turns out, Twilight's party is the same night as a fancy garden party that Rarity agreed to attend, and they are literally taking place right next to each other. Rarity begins making excuses to run back and forth between both parties, and she gradually starts to unravel until she's finally found out. Fortunately for her, in this episode, Twilight is not only best pony, she's the holier than Celestia best being in all the universe. She instantly loves her new dress, she enthusiastically tells Rarity to join the garden party, and she generally just can't stop singing Rarity's praises to anyone who will listen. Then, for some inexplicable reason, they all decide to move the birthday party out into the garden. What? Don't they know this is a fancy party? However, when the sophisticated ponies all react to the party cannon. Good lord, this has to be my favorite thing ever. In the end, Rarity stands by her friends, and fortunately for her, it turns out that Fancy Pants is the second most awesome being in the universe, as he completely backs up everything she says to help her save face and maintain her new status. And as she begins introducing him to her friends, it cuts away. Though we'll go ahead and assume that him finding out Rainbow Dash was not actually the Wonderbolt's trainer didn't cause any problems whatsoever. Alright, first off, I loved watching this side of Rarity. Seeing her apply her personality in this particular culture and having her succeed was oddly satisfying. And I really appreciate the fact that she has a genuinely difficult choice to make, and for the most part they don't take the easy way out, except for the fact that everyone she's dealing with here is super forgiving. I love the song, Fancy Pants is a great new character, and the birthday scene has a lot of fun moments. My main problem here is that once Rarity starts lying, she never stops, and she never gets called out on it at the end. And I can understand why she might be afraid to speak up at first, but even after it becomes clear that her friends won't get mad, that they'll be completely supportive no matter what, she still isn't honest with them. Twilight tells her to go to the other party, but she doesn't know the real reason for it. She just thinks Rarity's going to sell dresses. And like I said earlier, we never get any closure on the story about Rainbow Dash. In fact, while talking to some other people about this, I've heard it suggested that Rainbow would probably have a lot of fun pretending to be the Wonderbolt's trainer after all. But more than that, what bothers me is that there's really no reason for Rarity to lie in the first place. Twilight and Fancy Pants were both pretty cool with letting her do whatever she wanted. And as for establishing her friend's credibility, well, they're all friends with Celestia's personal student, and they all have a stained glass window in the palace dedicated to them. And I hate to keep saying this, but it's important to remember that this is a family show that's primarily aimed at kids. So what are you trying to say here? That it's okay to lie as long as you get what you want? It's a shame too, because otherwise this is a nearly perfect episode. I want to make that absolutely clear. Rarity does have a problem in this episode, and one that I think is very important. But everything else is excellent, and in spite of the problem, I also think the positive aspects outweigh it. Sweet and Elite gets an 8 out of 10.